On a snowy Christmas Eve in Aspen, billionaire Ethan Caldwell slammed his brakes, and what he saw in his headlights would haunt him forever. Two little girls, barefoot, trembling,
Are you
whispered,
excited for Christmas?
"Please,
Yes,
don't take us
Daddy.
back." Have you ever seen something so heartbreaking you just couldn't drive away? If you've ever witnessed kindness that changed a life, share your thoughts below. Tell us where in America or around the world are you watching this story from tonight. Snow fell thick and heavy across the Colorado mountains that Christmas Eve, blanketing Aspen in a silence that felt almost sacred. Ethan Caldwell gripped the steering wheel of his black Range Rover, eyes squinting through the swirl of white. The billionaire had everything money could buy, except peace. Since losing his wife, Clara, 2 winters ago, the world had become too quiet, his home too large, and his heart too empty. "Dad, that one has a giant snowman." Lucas's small voice broke through the hush. The 10-year-old pressed his face against the frosty window, fogging the glass with excitement. Ethan forced a faint smile. Every year, he promised Lucas they'd drive around town to see the Christmas lights, even when it hurt to do it without Clara. "Let's make this the last street, buddy," he murmured. "It's getting bad out here. Just one more, please." Lucas's brown eyes, his mother's eyes, were pleading. Ethan sighed. "All right. One more. S. And S. And I. And and Rye. The Range Rover turned onto a narrow county road, the tires crunching over ice. No houses, no lights, only darkness and snow. Then, movement. A flash of pale color in the headlights. Ethan's heart jolted. He slammed the brakes. The SUV skidded slightly before coming to a stop. "Dad, what is it?" Ethan leaned forward, pulse hammering. 2 small figures huddled on the roadside. Children. He threw the gear into park and jumped out. The bitter air slicing his lungs. He knelt beside them. 2 girls, maybe 8, sat pressed together, their thin dresses soaked, hair frozen in strands against their cheeks. Bruises marred their skin. Their lips were blue. "Sweethearts, can you hear me?" His voice trembled. One girl tried to speak, her teeth chattering too hard for words. The other's eyes fluttered open gray, hollow, terrified. Ethan wrapped his heavy coat around both of them. They didn't resist. They just shook. He lifted them easily. They weighed almost nothing. Lucas had already cranked up the heat, holding out his own jacket. "Put this on them, Dad." Inside the car, warmth slowly filled the space. The girls shivered violently, clutching each other. Ethan reached back. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'll take you to the hospital." The older one gasped and grabbed his sleeve with desperate strength. "No. Please, sir. Don't take us back. She'll hurt us." Lucas's eyes widened. "Dad, what does she mean?" Ethan met the girl's gaze, those frightened, pleading eyes, and felt something break inside him. "You're not going back anywhere," he said quietly. "But you're freezing. We need to get you warm." The younger one whispered, barely audible, Can we just go somewhere safe?" Ethan glanced at Lucas, then back at them. "You can. I promise." They drove through the snow in silence. The heater hummed. Lucas spoke softly from the back seat. "What are your names?" A pause. Then a trembling voice. "Kayla, and this is Nora. How long have you been out here?" "Since morning," Kayla whispered. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the wheel. Morning. 8 hours in a blizzard. What kind of person would abandon children like this? When they reached his mountain home, Ethan rushed them inside. He filled the bathtub with warm, not hot water, remembering Clara's gentle caution. Warmed them slowly. Lucas fetched blankets and hot cocoa, while Ethan knelt beside the tub, his heart pounding. The girl's skin was ice cold to the touch, their small shoulders covered in bruises he couldn't ignore. Later, wrapped in towels and borrowed pajamas, they sat by the fire, hands cupped around steaming mugs. Nora looked up at him, eyes glistening. "Thank you, mister." Ethan nodded, unable to speak. He watched the fire flicker against their faces, watched Lucas sitting close, whispering something that made them both smile. A fragile, fleeting smile that broke the silence of his house. For the first time in 2 years, Ethan felt warmth that didn't come from the fire. But just as he started to breathe easier, the older girl's voice trembled again. "Sir, if she finds out we're here, she'll come for us." Ethan froze. "Who?" Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "Aunt Nancy." The flames crackled louder in the hearth, as if the house itself had felt the chill return. Morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows, catching on the dust that floated above the grand piano. Ethan hadn't touched that piano since Clara died. Her sheet music still sat open on the stand, frozen in time. But this morning, something was different. The house didn't feel silent anymore. There was the faint sound of giggling, the shuffle of small feet against the hardwood floors, and the smell of toast and cocoa wafting through the kitchen. Lucas sat at the table, showing the twins how to build a tower from sugar packets. Kayla's laughter was still cautious, but it was laughter nonetheless. Nora, quieter, clutched the teddy bear Lucas had given her like a lifeline. Ethan stood in the doorway watching them, a coffee mug in hand, his heart tightening. For 2 years, the house had been an echo chamber of grief. Now, it breathed again. He cleared his throat softly. "How are you feeling today?" Kayla nodded, though her eyes darted around the room like she expected to be scolded for breathing too loudly. "We're okay, sir. Call me Ethan," he said gently. "Or maybe Mr. Caldwell." "Thank you, Mr. Caldwell," Nora whispered. Her voice cracked. Ethan smiled faintly. "You don't have to thank me, sweetheart. You're safe here. Safe." The word hung in the air like something sacred and unfamiliar. He prepared a warm breakfast, pancakes, eggs, and bacon. When he set the plates down, both girls hesitated, waiting for permission. It hit him hard. They were waiting to be told it was okay to eat. "Go ahead," he said softly. "Eat as much as you want." For a long moment, neither moved. Then Kayla picked up her fork and took a bite. A sound escaped her lips. Not quite a sob, not quite a sigh. Something that sounded like survival. Lucas leaned closer to Ethan. "Dad," he whispered. "They eat like they're scared. It'll disappear." Ethan nodded slowly, his chest aching. After breakfast, he led them to the guest room, now their room. Clara had painted it pale yellow years ago, saying she wanted a room that feels like morning. Ethan hadn't stepped inside since the funeral. But as the girls sat on the bed, running their fingers over the quilt Clara had made, he felt something inside him shift. That night, after the twins fell asleep by the fire, Ethan found Lucas sitting in the living room, stringing lights on the small artificial tree he'd found in storage. "I thought we weren't doing Christmas this year," Ethan said quietly. Lucas didn't look up. "Maybe we weren't, but they deserve one." Ethan stared at the half-lit tree. Clara had loved Christmas. She'd said it was proof that warmth can live inside winter. For the first time, those words didn't sound foolish. They worked together in silence. Lucas hanging ornaments, Ethan finding old stockings, even 2 small ones, embroidered with C and L. He paused, touching the faded stitching of Clara's name, then hung them beside 2 blank ones. When dawn came, the house glowed softly with lights. The twins stirred on the couch. Kayla's eyes blinked open first. She froze. "Look, Nora," she whispered. "It's Christmas. For real?" They approached the tree hesitantly, touching the branches, as if afraid it would vanish. "Merry Christmas," Ethan said from behind them. His voice was rough, but warm. "This is all for you." Tears welled in Nora's eyes. "Even the presents? All of it?" Lucas grinned. Mom would have wanted it that way. For the first time, both girls smiled wide, unafraid, unguarded. The room filled with light, laughter, and the kind of warmth Ethan thought he'd lost forever. Yet as they opened their gifts, Ethan noticed Kayla staring out the window, her smile fading. Snow drifted quietly beyond the glass, and she whispered something he barely caught. "She'll come for us." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Who will, sweetheart?" Kayla turned, her small voice trembling. "Aunt Nancy. She always does." The Christmas lights flickered once, and the warmth of the morning felt suddenly fragile, like the calm before a storm. The news broke 3 days later. Local billionaire shelters 2 abused girls found in Christmas Eve storm. The headline blared across every Colorado outlet. Reporters camped near the end of Ethan Caldwell's driveway, their lenses pointed toward the sprawling mountain estate. Inside, Ethan paced the living room, tension etched across his face. Lucas sat with Kayla and Nora, building Lego castles, trying to distract them from the noise outside. The girls had started to sleep better, but still woke in the night, crying out for their mother. Ethan's phone buzzed. It was the county sheriff. "Mr. Caldwell, we've identified the girls. Their Aunt Nancy Hale filed a missing persons report yesterday." The name made Kayla flinch when he repeated it. Nora's tiny hands trembled. "She's looking for us?" "Ah!" Ethan crouched beside them, lowering his voice. "She won't hurt you again, I promise." But the next day, a woman appeared at the courthouse with a polished lawyer and a perfect lie. Nancy Hale was sharp-featured, her smile thin and practiced. "My nieces ran away," she told reporters. "They're confused. They've been through a lot, and this man, Mr. Caldwell, has clearly manipulated them." Ethan sat silently through the interview, his jaw clenched. He could see it in her eyes, the same cold power he'd seen in abusers during charity cases years ago. People who twisted pain into control. At the hospital evaluation, doctors confirmed the girl's bruises and malnutrition. Ethan stood in the hallway, listening to the pediatrician's low voice. "They were starved, Mr. Caldwell. Possibly locked up. This didn't happen overnight." Still, Nancy's attorney filed for temporary custody, claiming Ethan had interfered with legal guardianship. That night, Ethan stared at the fireplace, the flames throwing restless shadows against the walls. "She's trying to take them back," he muttered. Lucas looked up from the couch. "Dad, you won't let her, right?" Ethan met his son's eyes steady, resolute. "No, I won't." Over the next days, he gathered every scrap of proof he could. Hospital reports, photographs, witness statements. But there was one thing missing: hard evidence from inside the Hale house. During breakfast, Kayla spoke up suddenly, her voice thin but sure. "There's a camera in the living room. Uncle Derek set it up because Aunt Nancy didn't know. He said it was for security." Ethan leaned forward. "Do you think it recorded anything?" Kayla nodded slowly. Sometimes it blinked red when she got mad. That was the first glimmer of hope. 2 nights later, Ethan drove through falling snow to the Hale residence, where Derek still lived. The man opened the door with tired eyes, guilt heavy in his posture. "I know what you saw," Ethan said quietly. "You could stop her. You could save them." Derek's face twisted with shame. "You don't understand. She's my wife. I have a son. And I have 2 girls who wake up screaming every night," Ethan replied. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "If you stay silent, you're choosing her side." Before Derek could respond, a soft voice came from behind the door. "Dad?" A boy stood there, 12, thin, pale, eyes filled with something between fear and courage. "Effin' Hale." He looked at Ethan for a long moment, then said, trembling, "If Dad won't tell the truth, I will." Nancy Hale's world was about to crack open, and Ethan knew the storm was far from over. The courtroom in Pitkin County was small, wood-paneled, and heavy with the kind of silence that made hearts pound louder than footsteps. Ethan sat in the front row beside Lucas, Kayla, and Nora. The twins clutched his hands so tightly his fingers went numb. Nancy Hale sat across the room, pristine in a beige suit, her lawyer whispering in her ear. Her expression was smug like she'd already won. She scanned the room once, her gaze landing on the children. A smile ghosted across her face, cold and poisonous. The judge cleared his throat. This hearing concerns custody and allegations of child abuse against Mrs. Nancy Hale. Counsel, proceed. Nancy's attorney spoke first, painting her as a misunderstood caregiver, a woman burdened with tragedy, accused unfairly by a stranger looking for attention. My client has no record, no history of violence, and these children, traumatized as they are, have clearly been manipulated. Ethan's lawyer stood next, calm, deliberate. Your Honor, manipulation doesn't leave bruises. It doesn't cause malnutrition or night terrors. He placed photos on the table: Kayla's arms, Nora's back, the old scars. Gasps rippled through the room. Nancy crossed her legs, unfazed. Kids fall. They bruise. The judge leaned forward. Those aren't playground scrapes, Mrs. Hale. Still, the defense was strong. Without direct evidence, video, witness testimony, everything hinged on word against word. And for a while, it seemed like Nancy would walk out free. Then the door at the back of the courtroom opened. Derek Hale entered, his son Evan beside him. Derek looked pale, trembling, a man dragging his guilt behind him. Evan held a flash drive in his hand. Your Honor, Derek said hoarsely, I have something you need to see. Nancy's face drained of color. Derek, don't you dare. The judge silenced her. The bailiff took the flash drive, connected it to the screen. Static flickered. Then the video began. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Nancy shouting, grabbing Kayla by the arm, shoving Nora into a corner. Her voice sharp and cruel. You eat when I say you can eat. You hear me. In the back of the courtroom, Kayla began to shake. Ethan wrapped his arm around her, steadying her. The judge's jaw tightened. Continue the video. More clips. The basement door slamming. The sound of crying. Nancy's silhouette pacing. Derek couldn't look up. When the screen went black, silence filled the room, thick, electric, irreversible. Derek spoke again, tears streaking down his face. I should have stopped her. I didn't. But I won't stay silent anymore. He turned to his son. Evan showed me what courage looks like. Nancy lunged from her seat. You think you can betray me? 2 deputies caught her before she reached him. The judge's gavel slammed once, sharp as thunder. Order! Mrs. Hale, you are hereby remanded into custody, pending formal sentencing. Kayla buried her face against Ethan's arm, sobbing with relief. Nora reached across the bench, clutching Lucas's sleeve. As deputies led Nancy away, she turned back, eyes burning. This isn't over, she hissed. Ethan rose, calm but firm. Yes, it is. Outside, snow began to fall again, quiet and soft against the courthouse steps. Derek approached Ethan, voice shaking. I'm so sorry. For everything, Ethan nodded. Then start by being there for your son. He did what most grown men couldn't. Evan looked up at him. Did we really stop her? Ethan knelt, resting a hand on the boy's shoulder. You didn't just stop her, Evan. You saved them. He turned to see Kayla and Nora standing side by side, small and fragile, yet free for the first time. But as they walked out into the snow, Ethan knew this wasn't the end. The courtroom had delivered justice, yet healing, he realized, would take far longer than any verdict could promise. Spring arrived quietly in Aspen, melting the last of the snow from the pine branches outside Ethan Caldwell's home. The air no longer bit, it breathed. The mansion that had once echoed with emptiness now carried the laughter of 3 children, the clatter of cereal bowls, and the faint hum of music Clara used to love. Ethan watched from the kitchen doorway as Lucas tried to teach Kayla and Nora how to flip pancakes. Batter splattered across the counter, and all 3 burst into laughter. It was messy, imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. For the first time in years, the sound didn't hurt. He'd spent months adjusting to fatherhood again, this time multiplied by 3. There were new routines, bedtime stories, spelling tests, and therapy sessions for the twins. There were also unexpected moments that softened him. A spontaneous group hug, a crayon drawing taped to his office desk that read, "Our family." Yet every night, when the children were asleep, Ethan stayed up going over bills. The legal fees, hospital expenses, the home repairs after winter, all stacked higher than he'd imagined. He had money, yes, but he'd sold off shares of his company to buy time, not wealth. He glanced toward the staircase, hearing the faint laughter upstairs. "I'll make it work," he whispered to himself. "Whatever it takes." That evening, while Lucas helped with homework, Ethan found Kayla sitting by the window, staring at the fading sunset. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Kayla hesitated. "Sometimes I get scared. Like maybe she'll come back." Ethan reached out, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "Nancy's gone, Kayla. She can't hurt you anymore." She nodded slowly, though her small shoulders stayed tense. "Then why do I still dream about her?" He exhaled softly. "Because fear doesn't disappear just because the danger does. But every day you wake up here, laugh here, live here, you're teaching that fear, it doesn't get to win." Kayla looked up at him then, eyes glistening. "Do you ever get scared?" "All the time," Ethan said with a sad smile. "I was scared when I lost your mom. I was scared when I found you in the snow. But being scared doesn't make us weak. It makes us human." She leaned against him quietly, her head resting on his chest. "You sound like Mom used to." That sentence nearly undid him. Later that night, as rain tapped softly on the windows, Nora woke screaming from a nightmare. Ethan rushed in, heart pounding. "It's okay," he whispered, gathering her trembling body into his arms. "You're safe. You're home." He rocked her gently, humming the lullaby Clara had written years ago. Morning comes again. Within minutes, her breathing slowed, her body relaxed. When she finally fell back asleep, Ethan stayed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, whispering into the quiet. "Thank you, Clara. I'm trying." Days turned into weeks, and laughter became the new rhythm of their lives. Lucas set up a family movie night. Nora planted marigolds in the garden. Kayla started sketching again, small pictures of trees, stars, and once, a man holding 2 little girls under falling snow. Ethan pinned that drawing on the fridge. Still, when he checked the mailbox one warm afternoon, he found an unfamiliar envelope addressed to him, Caldwell Residence, Aspen, CO. The handwriting was elegant, deliberate. Inside was a single business card, Harold Green, attorney at law, Denver, and a handwritten note beneath it. "I've been searching for Kayla and Nora Williams for 5 years. Please call me as soon as possible." Ethan froze on the porch, the mountain air suddenly colder. Someone from their past had found them, and he had no idea if this was a blessing or the beginning of something else entirely. The next morning, Ethan sat at his desk, the business card still resting beside the phone. He must have read the name a dozen times, Harold Green, attorney at law. Something about the handwriting felt intentional, almost gentle. He finally dialed, "Mr. Caldwell?" The voice on the other end was calm, older, with the cadence of someone who'd spent a lifetime choosing his words carefully. "My name is Harold Green. I was the estate attorney for Paul and Lily Williams, Kayla and Nora's parents." Ethan's grip tightened around the receiver. "Their parents?" "Yes, sir. They passed away in an accident 5 years ago. Before they left, they set up a trust fund for their daughters. I've been searching for them ever since." Ethan looked out the window toward the garden, where the girls were kneeling beside Lucas, laughing as they tried to keep the puppy from digging up the flowers. "They're safe now," he said softly. Finally, there was a pause on the line, the kind that carried weight. "Then you've already done what their parents hoped for," Harold said quietly. Still, I'd like to meet. There are letters, written by their mother. They were meant to be given to the girls when they were old enough. That afternoon, Harold arrived, a tall man in his 60s with kind eyes and a briefcase that looked as worn as his voice sounded. He sat at the kitchen table, sunlight spilling over the wood surface as he opened a thick envelope. "This," he said, sliding a small stack of sealed letters forward, "is from Lily. She wrote them during her final week. She had a feeling, a mother's instinct." Kayla and Nora exchanged uncertain glances. Ethan rested a reassuring hand on their shoulders. Harold continued, "The trust fund will cover everything they need. Education, healthcare, a stable home. It's not a fortune, but it's enough for a good life." Ethan's throat tightened. "I didn't take them in for money." "I know," Harold replied with a faint smile. "That's why you're exactly the man they were meant to find." After he left, the house felt quiet again. A different kind of quiet, filled with gratitude and ghosts. That night, Ethan sat by the fireplace with the girls. Kayla opened the first envelope. Inside was a short, handwritten note. "If you're reading this, it means someone kind found you. Be brave, my loves. Trust the warmth you feel, it's real." Ethan blinked back tears as the firelight flickered. He didn't notice Lucas standing by the stairs, whispering to himself, "Mom would have loved them." And outside, snow began to fall again, gentle, unhurried, like a memory returning home. The following weekend, Ethan loaded the SUV for a trip he'd been putting off since Harold's visit. The sun glowed softly over the Rockies as he packed flowers, bottled water, and the sealed letters into a canvas bag. Kayla and Nora sat in the back seat, unusually quiet. Lucas buckled in beside them, holding a small box of cookies they'd baked that morning. "For Mom and Dad in heaven, are you sure you want to do this today?" Ethan asked gently as he started the engine. Kayla nodded. "We're ready." The drive to Denver felt long, almost sacred. Highway 82 wound through forests and canyons, painted in early summer green. Ethan turned the radio low, just soft piano music, and let the quiet fill with meaning. When they arrived at Greenwood Cemetery, the afternoon light was warm and golden. Rows of white headstones shimmered among fields of lilies. The air smelled faintly of rain and pine sap. Ethan parked near a tall oak. The twins stepped out slowly, holding hands. Lucas followed, clutching the cookie box. Together, they walked the narrow path until they found it. Paul and Lily Williams' beloved parents, gone too soon. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the whisper of wind through the trees. Kayla knelt first, placing a small bouquet of white lilies on the grass. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad," she said softly. "It's us, Kayla and Nora. We were little when you left, but we think about you every day." Nora's voice trembled as she added, "We're safe now. Mr. Caldwell found us. He's our dad now." Ethan swallowed hard, eyes burning. He turned away slightly, pretending to adjust the flowers. Lucas knelt beside them. "He's a really good dad," he said matter-of-factly. "And he makes pancakes every Sunday." The girls giggled through their tears. Kayla reached into the bag, pulling out one of the letters Harold had given them. The paper was yellowed, folded carefully. She opened it and began to read aloud. "My darlings, if this reaches you, it means love has found its way back. The world is not always kind, but it gives us people who are. Trust those people. They're the proof that goodness still lives here." Her voice cracked on the last line. She folded the letter, tucking it beneath the flowers. Ethan finally knelt beside them, his hand on each of their shoulders. "You know," he said softly, "when I first found you, I thought I was saving you. But maybe you were saving me too." Nora looked up at him, her small brow furrowed. "How could we save you?" "Because," Ethan said, smiling through tears, "you made me believe in something again." The wind picked up, gentle, but strong enough to scatter a few petals across the grass. One landed on Ethan's sleeve, a single white petal, shaped like a heart. He stared at it for a long time before whispering, "Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Lily, for trusting me with them." As they turned to leave, Kayla tugged on his hand. "Dad?" "Huh. Yes, sweetheart? Can we come back here sometimes?" "Not to be sad, just to visit." Ethan smiled, his throat tight. "Anytime you want." They walked back toward the car, sunlight glinting off the windshield. In the rearview mirror, Ethan saw 3 small faces, tired, tear-streaked, but at peace. Halfway down the road, Nora broke the silence. "Dad? Do you think they know we're okay now?" He looked at her in the mirror, then at the mountains fading behind them. "I think," he said, "they've known all along." Outside, the sky shifted to a soft blue-gray. Raindrops began to fall slow, gentle, like blessings from above. And as the wipers swept across the windshield, Ethan smiled quietly. For the first time in years, the rain didn't feel like loss. It felt like home. A year later, the Caldwell home was no longer the quiet mansion it once had been. It was alive, overflowing with life, laughter, and something Ethan hadn't dared believe in for a long time. Peace. The grand piano in the corner no longer sat untouched. Nora had started taking lessons, her small fingers clumsily finding the notes of Silent Night. The melody floated through the house even in summer, like a memory that refused to fade. Ethan stood by the window, watching the 3 children play in the yard. Lucas was teaching Kayla how to throw a baseball. Nora was painting on the patio table, her curls bouncing in the breeze. The sun caught her watercolor 3 stick figures under a glowing Christmas tree, labeled "Our Family." He smiled. That simple phrase still stunned him sometimes. "Our family." "Dad," Lucas called from the yard. "You're gonna be late." "Late for what?" Ethan laughed, grabbing his jacket. "For your speech." "Right. The conference." Denver Civic Hall. He'd been invited to speak at a national summit on child welfare reform, something he'd helped fund through the Lilly Foundation. Named in honor of the twins' mother, the foundation had grown faster than he expected, helping families across Colorado find safe homes for abused children. On stage that evening, the lights were bright, the audience silent. Ethan adjusted the microphone, his palms damp. He'd faced investors, judges, reporters. But this was different. This was personal. "I used to think wealth meant security," he began, his voice steady but soft. "Then one snowy Christmas Eve, I found 2 little girls on the side of a road barefoot, shaking and terrified. And for the first time in my life, I realized that the truest kind of wealth isn't in what we own, but in who we choose to care for." He paused, scanning the crowd. "Those girls and my son taught me something money never could. Kindness isn't an act. It's a decision we make when no one's watching." A hush settled over the hall. In the front row, Kayla and Nora sat beside Lucas, holding hands. When Ethan's eyes met theirs, he felt a warmth that reached deeper than applause ever could. He continued, voice thick with emotion. "We can't undo the past, but we can outlove it. Every child deserves a home that's safe, a place that believes in them. And sometimes," he smiled faintly, "the miracle isn't who you save. It's who you become after." The room rose to its feet, applause echoing through the hall like rolling thunder. Cameras flashed, but Ethan barely noticed. All he saw were his kids, smiling wide through their tears. Later that night, they drove home through a light snowfall, the first of the season. The headlights carved through the white just as they had a year ago. But this time, Ethan's hands were steady on the wheel. Kayla leaned forward from the back seat. "Dad?" "Yeah, sweetheart? Remember that night when you stopped the car?" He nodded, glancing at her in the mirror. She smiled softly. "That was the best thing you ever did." He chuckled, voice low. "Funny. I was just thinking the same thing." As they turned down the long drive toward the house, The porch lights came into view, warm, golden, welcoming. Snowflakes spun gently in the air. Ethan parked, turned off the engine, and sat for a moment, watching his children run ahead toward the door, their laughter echoing across the yard. He looked up at the night sky and whispered, "Thank you for letting me stop." The wind answered softly, carrying with it the faint sound of a piano melody from inside the same lullaby Clara once played, now alive again through tiny hands. And as the door closed behind them, the snow kept falling, quiet and endless, covering the world in white, because sometimes the road that changes everything begins the moment you choose to stop. The Christmas road, the millionaire who stopped, reminds us that real wealth has nothing to do with money, but everything to do with compassion. It shows that one selfless act, stopping on a snowy road, can alter the course of several lives, including our own. Through Ethan's journey from grief to grace, the story reflects how kindness can resurrect the human spirit, heal invisible wounds, and restore faith in humanity. It teaches us that love doesn't have to be perfect, only present. That family isn't always blood, but those who choose to stand beside us when the world turns cold. In a society often obsessed with success and status, this story whispers a timeless truth. Empathy is the most valuable currency we possess. And sometimes, the smallest gesture of courage, simply choosing to care, can light up an entire world blanketed in snow.